Hello students, I'm Debalina Hazarika and I'm going to discuss about the concept of the consumer behavior, and the contents of this module are concept, ordinal utility, indifference curve, budget line and consumer equilibrium. The economists have tried to explain consumer choice and behavior in terms of utility. And the concept of utility can be divided into the cardinal utility analysis and the ordinal utility analysis. So the two theories that explain consumer behavior are the cardinal approach, which explains that utility is objectively measurable. And the next approach is the ordinal approach, which explains that consumer can rank their preferences. So in this module, I am going to discuss about the ordinal approach of measuring utility. The concept of indifference curve analysis was first propounded by the British economist Edgeworth, and its technique attains perfection at the hands of Professor J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen in 1934. According to ordinal utility theory, utility cannot be measured in physical units. Rather, the consumer can only rank utility derived from the various commodities in order of preference or indifference. So, indifference curve is a locus of all combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction to the consumer. And since any combination of two goods on an indifference curve gives equal level of satisfaction, the consumer is indifferent to any combination that he consumes. So this concept of indifference curve can be understood by this indifference schedule and along with the indifference curve. In the indifference schedule, here we have two commodities and the different combination of these two goods which gives the consumer the same level of satisfaction. And joining these points A, B, C, D, E, we can derive the indifference curve, which is a downward sloping curve. The concept of indifference curve is based on some assumptions. The first is rationality. A consumer aims to maximize his utility given his income and market prices. Second assumption is the utility is ordinal. That is, a consumer can rank his preferences according to the satisfaction of each basket. Then the next assumption is consistency. A consumer is consistent in his choice, that is, if in one point he chooses bundle A over B, he will not choose B over A in another period. The next assumption is transitivity. It means that if a consumer prefers bundle A to B and B to C, so he prefers bundle A to C. And next is the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. That means the rate of substituting one commodity for the other along with an indifference curve. that if a consumer chooses amount of Y product, then he must give up some unit of X product to gain or to keep him in the same level of satisfaction. So based on these assumptions, the indifference curve is having few properties. First is that the indifference curve are downward sloping and it has a negative slope. That means if the quantity of one commodity decreases, the quantity of another must increase if the consumer have to stay on the same level of satisfaction. And the indifference curve is convex to the origin. The next property is that the two indifference curve can never intersect each other. In the diagram also, when IC1 intersect IC2, that means it cannot happen in case of an indifference curve. And another property is that the higher indifference curve represents higher level of satisfaction. IC2 gives a consumer more satisfaction at point Q than at point S, which is on a lower level of indifference curve IC1. Now, based on all this, the next important thing is that a consumer also have a limited amount of money with him. So the budget line represents the prices of the goods and the consumer's money income. A product is demanded by the consumer if he has a preference for that product and a purchasing power to buy that product. Now his preference pattern is represented by the set of indifference curve, while his purchasing power depends on his money income and the market prices of the goods. So the budget line shows all those combination of two goods which the consumer can buy spending his given money income on the two goods at their given prices. Now the budget line can be represented by this equation Px of quantity x and Py of quantity y, which is equal to m. And in this budget line, where at point B and L are the two extreme points. And the maximum amount of x and y which a consumer can buy can be shown here in the point B and L. The consumer cannot purchase at point H because it is out of his reach. So using the concept of indifference curve and the budget line, now we'll try to understand the concept of consumer equilibrium. A consumer is in equilibrium when, given his taste and price of the two goods, he spends a given money income on the purchase of two goods in such a way as to get the maximum satisfaction. That is, the consumer is in equilibrium when he maximizes his utility given his income and the market prices. So here there are two conditions of consumer equilibrium. The two conditions must be fulfilled for the consumer to be in equilibrium. The first condition is that the marginal rate of substitution must be equal to the ratio of commodity prices. But this is the necessary but not a sufficient condition for consumer equilibrium. That is, at the point of equilibrium, the slope of indifference curve and the budget line should be the same. This is the first condition. The second condition is that the indifference curve must be convex to the origin. And at the point of equilibrium, the marginal rate of substitution of x for y must be falling for equilibrium to be stable. It means that the indifference curve must be convex to the origin. Now, with the help of these graphical presentation, we can understand the concept of consumer equilibrium. Now, given the indifference map of the consumer and his budget line, the equilibrium is defined by the point of tangency of the budget line with the highest possible indifference curve. Here, the point of equilibrium E is where the consumer attains the maximum satisfaction. Any point on F or G, the consumer's equilibrium is less as it is on a lower indifference curve IC1. Similarly, the consumer cannot attain the equilibrium at point H as it is out of its budget line AB. So, any combination of equilibrium that is at point E where the consumer attain maximum satisfaction. So, thank you for watching this.